Welcome back. We're unpacking the current Alberta provincial election. That's right. For those of you watching in Alberta, you're heading to the polls May 29th. And joining me again is Mike Donnison and Rob Anders. Thank you again both for joining me today. One of the biggest issues for Alberta nationally and provincially is, of course, energy. You have a huge resource there that many provinces in this country do not have. Rob, I'll start with you. How is the energy portfolio shaping up or shaping policy in this election?
Well, you got, they're obviously diametrically opposed. The UCP is in favor of building pipelines, corridors, economic opportunities, jobs, etc. The NDP says they're pro-jobs, but really they're mostly government jobs, unionized jobs, etc. So that it's a huge issue. Obviously, the NDP has been buttering, their electorate in Edmonton with lots of government jobs, hence the numbers you see that are massively in favor of them there. But Calgary, has like 10 million unoccupied square feet, downtown Calgary. Big office towers are being condoized and turned into residential apartments because so many of the oil sector jobs have been lost. So, yeah, it's a huge issue for sure.
So can those oil sector jobs be regained? Mike, do you have a thought on that?
Well, yes, I think some of them can be regained. I think one thing I'd like to mention, the big issue, I think, where the NDP are vulnerable is the whole, Justin Trudeau policy of zero in 2050. Now, she's come out and said that's unrealistic. And she's broken ranks now with her own NDP federal leader. She's running away from his position on that. Now, Notley has promised, she said, she will deal with the emissions issue, which she thinks we can do with investment, blah, blah, blah. But she's promised no decrease in production. Now, how she's going to pull that off is beyond me. So she is running away from this issue. And this is the one policy issue where I think the NDP are the most vulnerable.
Well, and it's interesting you contrast the federal NDP position to the provincial NDP position, because it's almost like there's a cognitive dissonance happening here. So does she have a leg to stand on? How does a provincial NDP government, when they have a federal counterpart basically, in some kind of agreement with Prime Minister Trudeau that has done nothing but hampered the energy sector in Alberta, how can the provincial NDP speak with integrity to that issue, Mike?
Well, I don't think they can. I think that's the problem. Notley's argument is, well, I can get along better with Ottawa, but I think that's the vulnerability. And I mentioned to a UCP person I know, if I was just to give them some advice, I think that they should be talking about for the next 2 weeks, if I can jump to that, is I would just be going door to door. And if I met a voter who was hesitating, thinking of shifting, I would just say, madam, a vote for Notley and the NDP is a vote for Justin Trudeau. That's exactly what the UCP should be saying. And I think if they keep saying that after, that may be enough to hold them in office, because that's the NDP's real vulnerability.
So besides, go ahead, Rob.
I just wanted to point out, the NDP federally in Alberta is at 19 points, and provincially they're at 40. That's a huge gulf. It's a 20-point gulf. There's no justification for that if you're able to hold your feet to the fire.
My goodness. Yeah, that is a huge gulf. You're right. So beyond then the energy sector, we talked about lightly carbon taxation. Is that still an issue percolating with voters, Rob?
Yeah, I think it is. Obviously, there's a huge difference between what Alberta charges and when you cross the border into British Columbia or Saskatchewan. People know that. And the provincial government is holding off on some of the taxes related to that, kind of giving a tax holiday of sorts. But yeah, that issue needs to be hammered more. The NDP is not bragging about it, and that's because, like Mike Donnison says, it's an incredibly weak leg for them, and so that should be kicked out from under them for sure.
Now, I know previously the federal government was kind of trying to remake the energy sector in Alberta and trying to get them off fossil fuels types of energy and more into renewable energy. Mike, is that resonating at all? Is that an issue in this election?
No, I think it's an issue. I'm not an expert on the energy sector, but no, it's cutting through. It's the whole question of, even if you recognize climate change, and even if you believe in the science of, need to reduce emissions, The real argument is how we're going to do it economically. And I relate back to the point is the NDP vulnerability is lost jobs. How do they square the circle of meeting these new emission targets without serious reduction in employment in the major industry of the province of Alberta?
Right.
I don't think Notley's been able to really square that circle very well on that.
Okay, well, we're going to cut. We'll be right back.